Hello, everyone. Oh, okay, there we go. The YouTube changed the overlay a little bit here. Let's see what they got here. No highlights, no stream marker. Okay, share. Oh, okay, gotcha. All right. Anyway, hello, everyone. Welcome to yet another live stream. I know I said from 5 to 7, but I figured I'd get on a minute early in case someone said, "Ooh, is Paul live streaming at 5?" Shows up at 5 and they don't see that I'm live streaming. I wanted to make sure that if someone is absolutely precise with the timing, that he or she can say Paul was live at 5. So there you go. I did it a minute early for you guys. So you probably saw the title and are thinking, "Ooh, you're going to talk about how happy you are with your YouTube channel," which yes, I am. But first, I wanted to talk about something that's been on my mind that we shouldn't really feel. YouTube just gave me, oh, okay, gotcha. We shouldn't feel this pressure that we have to have all the answers and that we know everything about the faith, because there's a parable which is suggested to not just be a parable, like an actual historical story that more or less kind of proves that point. And that's that there's the rich man and Lazarus. And the rich man is taken to the suffering part of Hades, and Lazarus is taken to a place called Abraham's bosom, which is where the righteous that came before Jesus were waiting for the Messiah to come. And the rich man is asking Lazarus, mind you, he's not going to God, or sorry, he's going to Abraham. And he's saying, "Hey, you got all this power, so raise someone from the dead, do some kind of crazy, incredible sign." And there are two things that strikes me as interesting in Abraham's response. The first is, at no point does Abraham actually rebuke what the rich man says. He says, "Yeah, you lived not that great of a lifestyle." Hello there, Kateri. Welcome in. Any good news lately? I was just talking about how I was thinking about the rich man and Lazarus in the Bible, and how that makes me feel better if I'm not the greatest at convincing people that Catholicism is real. What was I saying? Oh, yeah. So the first is that Abraham doesn't say, kind of, "Oh, don't talk to me. You're supposed to go directly to God. You can't be talking to dead people. That's stupid." But instead, what does Abraham say instead of that? He says, "Well, you are in the suffering part of Hades, and I am in the righteous part. So people of your status shouldn't be able to talk to me, because there is a chasm." Does that chasm apply to people on earth? I don't think it does. 'Cause otherwise, Abraham would have said, "You can't ask for intercession from anyone except for God." Another thing that's interesting is that he says Father Abraham 3 different times in this entire passage, and not once does Abraham quote, "Call no one on earth your father, for you have but one Father, and he is in heaven." No, he just accepts that the word father can be an honorary title, just like you would call your dad father. You wouldn't stop saying dad. And if you did, it would be absurd if a dad came up to you and said, "Don't call me dad, for you have but one dad, and he is your Father in heaven." No, people are way smarter than that. But then the third thing, and this is what really got me thinking, is at the end of the exchange, the rich man asks that Abraham can send someone from Hades to go and talk to his brothers so that they can warn them about, this whole, like, "Oh, hey, I'm in torment and I need help, and if you go to them, then you can spare them from my fate." And Abraham's like, "Well, they can just listen to Moses and the prophets." And he's like, "Well, maybe if the resurrection will happen, then that'll convince them more than Moses and the prophets do." And so Abraham's response is, if they won't listen to Moses and the prophets, they won't listen to. So my thoughts here is, I think for some who are either, I would probably say more so hardcore atheists than agnostics, nothing you say is going to convince them. They're just way too convinced that, like everything has to make sense in the faith, which it doesn't. But faith is a response, not something that you comprehend. And that's what I think Abraham was trying to say here. Let's see what Kateri said here. Not a whole lot of slow and boring. Honestly, that's how I feel about gaming. But the rest of my life certainly isn't slow and boring. Oh, congratulations, Kateri. What'd you do for your birthday? Did you get to play any cool video games on your birthday? So now that I finished talking about what I was thinking about Abraham and Lazarus and the rich man, now I wanted to talk about why I think history. So first off, obviously I don't think my channel is perfect at this point. I know that I'm not that great of an editor. My friends think I am, but that's because they don't edit at all. So generally, I've noticed that when people have no skill in something, they think that if anyone has mediocre skill, that that mediocrity is considered a masterpiece from their perspective. So like, I'm not that good at guitar, but because I can play the guitar more than my friends can, they often say, "Oh, Paul, you're such an amazing guitarist." So it's really funny how that works out. No video games. You did go to Olive Garden. Okay, I'm not sure if I ever went there. What kind of stuff do they have? You're hesitant to. Your birthday was on Good Friday. Very, very nice, Kateri. My birthday fell on Easter back, I think it was last year. My birthday was on Easter. This Good Friday was so amazing for my family because we finally got our plumbing fixed. That's why my hair actually looks halfway decent in the stream because I got a chance to do a proper shower. And we also got all the nails removed from my sister's floor. So eventually she and I are going to put in a new floor and then she'll be able to have her room back. So it all came full circle, even if it wasn't exactly what we were hoping for. We were hoping that this whole like full circle on Good Friday moment would be, getting this mysterious family situation solved. But you know what? this greatness about the plumbing and my sister's floor, it's something. And I think God wants us to cherish the little somethings in life as a way of saying, you know what? Change takes time. But in the meantime, here's tiny little blessings that'll get you to realize you're not in hell. If you were in hell, you would have no blessings. You wouldn't even have this concept that things could get better in hell because you know better. So that's why I think anyone who thinks this is hell on earth isn't counting their blessings. Whatever they're dealing with is preventing them from being able to see even the slightest bit of good. Olive Garden is an Italian restaurant. Oh, okay. You know what? I love Italian. Well, I should say I really like pizza. That's my favorite food. So if they have pizza, I might have to suggest that to my friends because I've got some company coming over on Thursday, from Thursday to Monday to be exact. And to the best of my ability, I'll try to do a vlog about it. I don't know. I don't know if I'd like all that other stuff you mentioned, but if they have pizza, that sounds cool. Okay, very nice. They do have the steak and gorgonzola thing. Okay, Alfredo noodles, very nice. I do remember liking steak, but it's been so long since I've had one. But I might have to consider having one again because the friends that are coming over have stated that they really want to go to exotic restaurants and they didn't want to just default to Burger King and McDonald's. So I told them, well, where I live, we have quite a lot of interesting stuff. So hopefully that works for them. But yeah, thank you for the suggestion, Kateri. Try to keep it in mind. I've had a lot of things to think about with regards to their trip, but I think my town is so small that it should be easy to look up just like what are the restaurants in insert name of town here. Also, YouTube is lying again. It says 0 people are watching when clearly you're watching. So don't trust YouTube analytics. I've been saying that for years. I need to take my own advice. Whenever it says that I only have 18% of a female audience, it's just like, it's probably more like 40, but analytics is just weird. But anyway, Why is this the peak of my channel's history? I do think my editing has gotten better. Maybe not perfect, but it's certainly way better than what I used to be able to do. The Switch 2 came out last year, so I've been able to capture footage in much higher quality, including Switch 1 games that are able to display in higher resolution as simply the result of backwards compatibility. And then, I also feel like recent audience from the past couple of months has been treating me really well. There's meme crowd seems to have finally died out, and if there is any meme crowd left, they've all unsubscribed or something along those lines, and that makes me feel really happy. I know most YouTubers don't celebrate losing subscribers, but like I've been saying for many, many months now, and this is probably why analytics say that my channel's doing terribly, and that's I don't feel like most of the subscribers that I got since I surpassed 1,000 were deserved. I think there were a few, obviously, but I think the vast majority of them were just chasing a trend. And so that's why I think that the people nowadays, like the ones who come to my streams regularly and comment on my videos, they're the people that I'm happy to have around. And they're the people that are making me feel like, okay, I think the Catholic gaming nerd is at an all-time high as far as, I still get way more likes than dislikes, and I've been having conversations with people that are just so much more deep and so much more um, spiritually fruitful. And Karen Yu is here, so there's another thing that makes my channel at its peak. Welcome in, Karen Yu. Glad you could make it here. By the way, I'm not sure if you ever knew this, but the word fella actually means a man or a boy. And Kateri is very much a female, so might have to rephrase that a little bit. But how are you doing, Karen? Any good news or things you're looking forward to? As for me, my good news is that I've got Isabel and her sister and her brother-in-law that are coming to visit me this Thursday, from this Thursday all the way to Monday. And then, well, at my school, we called everyone fellas. And like some of my classmates would even call our female teacher sir. So we just got used to the fact that I think over time girls have gotten used to this idea that like when you're talking about people in general, you tend to use more masculine phrasing. Like when you're talking to a group of people, you usually say, hey guys. You won't say, hey guys, and the one gal in the room. Like you won't say all of that stuff. I didn't know that either. But then I had a friend of mine that I've known for quite a few years that pointed that out to me when I said fellow. And she looked up the definition. In fact, I'll see if the definition still says that, because that was quite a few years ago. Definition of fellow. Yeah, a boy or a man. That's literally the first thing that popped up here. But yeah, Karen, you were missing. I was talking about how I think that this time of my channel's history is probably some of my favorite times. I was also talking about the story of Abraham and the rich man in Hades, and how I feel like that verse has just really soothed me lately. Whenever I feel like I just cannot convince people to be Catholic or cannot convince them that Jesus is real, you know, even if you want to conclude that this story of Abraham and the rich man is just a bunch of nonsense and the Bible is fake and Jesus was never a real person, you could conclude that behind it is surprisingly accurate to how atheists think. Because the last thing Abraham says in that passage is, if he's not going to believe Moses and the prophets, he's not going to believe it if someone rises from the dead. Some people are just too stubborn to believe the truth. Heck, one of Jesus' own disciples betrayed him. Like, if the creator of the universe couldn't even get all of his disciples to believe in the truth, what makes us think that we're going to be any better? Like, surely if he has all this cosmic power, He could have stopped all those people from walking away during John 6, but he didn't, because he realized you guys just can't handle the truth. And so the next time I'm talking to someone and that person says, "Sorry, Paul, but I just don't want to believe in this Jesus guy," I'll be like, "Well, let me just quote that verse about Abraham and the rich man and see how that applies." Oh, thank you, Karen. Yeah, no, I think like obviously before you got here, I did say I'm still not quite to the point where I think I deserve most of my subscribers, except for you guys, whichever side of the screen I'm supposed to be pointing at, where the chat is coming from. The people that aren't regulars are the ones that I wonder, like, are they actually subscribed to me, or were they just chasing a trend? Hello, Kevin. Glad you could make it. I still don't know what that symbol is. Like, the last time, I don't remember if it was you, but someone said, "Hey, Paul," and there was this, like, I don't even know how to describe it. It looks like it says, like, XA before "Hey, Paul," and I don't know if you wrote that or YouTube wrote it or what, but it is so bizarre. I deserve 10,000 KKK. Man. Well, thank you for saying that. I will, I just hope that I get meaningful conversations if that ever comes to fruition. But I don't think that'll happen just because I break nearly every rule that YouTube says about that. But let me answer what Kateri is saying. A part of you kind of thinks that they do believe to some level. Because in your experience, when people insist so heavily that they do not believe in something, it reaches a point where who are you? Okay, gotcha. Who are you trying to convince, me or yourself? I'd have to think about that because there's a Bible verse that says that you really have no clue what is going on inside someone's soul or their mind, especially not if you're me. Like, I am not a mind reader. I'm not very intuitive at all. If Melissa was here, she'd have a psychology term for it. You guys don't get that, so I'll speak in more neutral terms. An exclamation mark? That's what you tried to do, Kevin? So your intro was exclamation mark, "Hey, Paul," more exclamation marks. Interesting. Okay. Okay, I think I see it. Okay. Just because that's what you've observed in situations where people are so insistent on other things. Get the vibe sometimes people are just trying to convince themselves more. Yeah, because, I mean, think about it. Let's say hypothetically that most people do believe in God. I think those people, even though they believe, they just don't want to deal with the commitment. Like, oh my gosh, I have to go to church every Sunday. Oh my gosh, I have to not sleep with every single person in existence. I have to commit to my husband or my wife, and it has to be the opposite gender. Are you kidding me? That's probably what I think most atheists are thinking. Way more that than just, is God real or not? You doubt I'll be able to speak with people. Oh, you mentioned the chat. I thought you meant subscribers. Okay. That changes the whole dynamic of your sentence. Let me reread that. Now you deserve 10 KKK. Okay. In terms of the chat. Oh. Oh no. No. But no, I break literally every single rule of what YouTube says is good for getting subscribers. They say you have to have a call for action, which I don't do. The only thing I really do is I ask people to comment, but I stopped doing that lately and it still doesn't work. So people are just going to be silent observers, I guess. They say that you have to be consistent with your upload quality. Sometimes I get impatient and I want to upload things early. They say that you have to like upload same kind of content, which nope, not my thing. I do whatever I want. So yeah, I'm probably never going to get to that point. Convenience. Oh yeah. Oh heck yeah. I know plenty of people now who will say that they just do not agree with the church's teachings, and they'll say like, yeah, I just don't accept God's teaching, as opposed to saying that God doesn't exist. Kind of feel like if someone was really confident in what they thought, can someone else having a different opinion not be so? Yeah, that's kind of how I felt about the Mario Galaxy movie. is, and I know I made a pin saying no spoilers, so I am going to be very general about what I say. I ended up coming back from that movie thinking it was phenomenal. I didn't think it was perfect, obviously, but I had a big stupid grin on my face the whole time. I was laughing almost every other minute. Even my sister was enjoying herself. There was a certain reveal, which I will not spoil, but when it happened, my sister like put her fist up in the air almost as if she was trying to fist bump me, and I just went like this. I was like, "Okay, okay, I'm listening." And then I got back from the theater thinking, "Oh my gosh, this was such a cool experience." And I had a blast. And then Rotten Tomatoes said it only had a 44. And I was like, what are the critics' problems? And then I started reading some of the critic reviews, and they said, like, this is worse than AI, and it's the death of cinema. And I'm thinking, okay, it's one thing to hate a movie, but is it really that bad? It's a Mario movie. Like, if you want to know the worst movie I've ever seen, it's Sunday School Musical. And that probably sounds blasphemous to all of you in the chat who are Catholics. You're like, why would you hate Sunday School Musical? That sounds like that would be your favorite movie. But here's the thing about it, it was objectively a badly made movie. And I don't mean stuff like it had a bad script. I mean, basic stuff like sound mixing wasn't even there. Like some scenes would be so quiet that my sister and I would have to turn up the volume. And then the next scene, I'd be throwing myself backwards from the TV because it was just blaring too loud. The acting was absolutely terrible. You could tell these people were just doing their job and they didn't actually have the chemistry they were portraying on the TV, if they portrayed chemistry at all. And then the final lesson of the movie was one of the girls said to people that were opposing them, Jesus says that we need to be nice to one another. Like, wow, guys, of all the Bible verses and all the great things Jesus has said, being nice. So if they think the Mario Galaxy movie is worse than that, they clearly need their eyes and their ears checked. Although, to be fair, my theater has never been great with sound mixing, so I can say there were a few times in the Mario Galaxy movie where things were too quiet in one scene and then too loud in another. Was it a ripoff of High School Musical? Honestly, I think I didn't like High School Musical too much either, but it was at least like so bad that it's funny. But this was just bad. There was at no point did I ever laugh. I was genuinely like my ears hurt, and it is genuinely painful to listen to this. Yeah, that's the problem I've had with going to the movies for a very long time. It's why I very rarely go to the movies for that matter. In fact, the last time I went to see a movie before the Mario movie was The Chosen season 5. And from what I remember, that sounded pretty well. But the movie before that I watched, yeah, it was all over the place. But yeah, what was I going to say? I hope you guys will pray that I will be able to go to the Catholic Creator Conference. I still gotta call Kyle again. He came in here once, called himself Catholic Kyle, and he said, dude, you'd be great for the Catholic Creator Conference. I just have to figure out how to make it work. I won't go into the details, but let's just say easier said than done. I have been very blessed with years, but I think I might have reached the point where it's just like I don't know if I can have that availability. We will see. But if I do go, I'll know at least one person from another Catholic YouTube channel. Actually, I can think of at least two people that have YouTube channels that are Catholic that I will be able to meet in person if I go. So if you guys could pray for that, that'd be really great. But yeah, for those of you that came in late, why do I think the Catholic gaming nerd is at its peak? Well, I already said that, conversations seem to be going better. Like, I'll get like really good comments, not too often, but every now and then I'll get things saying like, oh yeah, yours review was the only one I trusted. And then like, I'll review something that I'll think is so niche and no one will care about. And then that'll get like a ton of views. Like when I reviewed pools, that was surprisingly popular. I even had someone who wasn't a gamer come in and, comment on it. And when I put out my review of the Mario Galaxy movie, I was really debating how long I should take before I released it. And then so I said, well, you know what? I think it's better if I get it out as soon as possible so that people can make an informed decision about if theaters or not. And it ended up doing really good. I think it had like 400 views in like 2 days, which by my standards, that is insanely good. And I feel like, I really like all of you guys. You have, before you got here, Kevin, I was making a joke with Car and you that the word fellas means a man or a boy. So I mentioned that, like, nowadays when you say the word guys, you're not going by the literal definition of a guy is like a boy or a man as well. You that's just what you say to people. You don't go around saying guys and girls if you're talking about people in general. You don't say, "Oh, you gals." You don't get that. Even if you're around, I'm pretty sure there have been times where I've been around like an all female group of friends and I've still said, "Hey guys." Like, you just kind of say it. So I figure we're getting to the point where I think most people who are obsessed with this whole oh yeah, absolutely, Karen, you. That's why I get so tired of people in Catholic churches who, when they're saying the creed, they'll just say, for us and for all the world, he came down from heaven. It's supposed to be for us men and for our salvation. He came down from heaven. Because at the time the creed was written, it was assumed that the word man was encompassing all of humankind. Because even if you're a woman, you still have man in the title. Even if you're a female, you still have because I guess if we are to believe that Genesis is a historical account, it was through man that woman was created. And I know a lot of people think that this means that men have more ribs than women, but actually, science has proven that false. I will not explain the explanation I've heard for what God did take away because it might not be too appropriate for this. But let's just say, as soon as I heard that alternate explanation for what God meant by he removed a rib from Adam, I was like, oh my gosh, that recontextualizes everything. The entire verse makes way more sense now. So, for the sake of not wanting this chat to get too PG-13, I would just say look up what does the word rib mean in Hebrew and see what you find. Because, oof, oh, that was so cool when I found that out. For us men and for our salvation was standard in every parish. Oh no. If you go to churches that are more like liberally oriented, you will absolutely hear a couple of people just saying for us and for our salvation. I wish I could say I was lying, but I've heard it way too many times, and I just got so sick of it that I would actually emphasize the word men when I was saying the creed, just to be like, no, this is the reason why Pope Benedict XVI changed the English rite for not the Novus Ordo, the regular English Mass, is people were trying to insert their own words and phrases into something that was supposedly a Catholic and universal church. So he said, okay, everyone is going to say this. And so instead of priests like just making up words during the consecration prayer, they're like, okay, we need you to be more specific so that it's more in line with the Latin. There is a really loud bug above me. So if you're wondering why my head is turning like crazy, that is why. This will distract the bug so that it won't bother the live stream. But yeah, I think like in this modern era, people are just way too concerned about stuff like pronouns and political accuracy, that we forget that for generations way before this, no one gave a darn about that. Like, people would just say fellas and guys and not think, oh, we're offending all those who identify as she, her. They realized that people who were easily offended by those kinds of words were the people that were easily offended if you said, hey, did you comb your hair? Like, people back then assumed, well, yes, we don't want to go too far in the other direction. I certainly wouldn't want to, how do I word this? I don't think I'd ever want to go up to, like, say, a trans person or a trans ally and say, you're being a big baby. I think you guys are misunderstanding some things. So let's talk about it. I've learned that diplomacy is the best way you're going to get people to change. And that's why we use different catechisms nowadays. Because we used to use what was called the Baltimore Catechism, which was this very, like, obviously it was telling the truth, but it was telling it in a very harsh way of speaking. So, like, nowadays, when we go to confession, we are taught that you only have to confess venial sin, or not me, mortal sins. Venial sins, you technically don't need to confess because they're forgiven at the Confiteor, which, for those of you that don't know Latin, it's the part of the Mass where you say, I confess to Almighty God, or in some parishes, they just say, Lord, have mercy. So all venial sins are forgiven during that point. But in the Baltimore Catechism, it wasn't specific enough. And so it said, you go into the confessional with one sin. You forget to confess those sins, you leave with 3. It's like this. Yes, that's technically true if you have mortal sins, because it's a sin to deliberately not confess a mortal sin to a priest. They could have worded that a lot more nicely, because I think that's what turns people away from Catholicism more than them hating the doctrines. It's the way things are phrased. I think people that think that I think that people who say, oh, why do you Catholics pray to saints? It's like, honestly, I don't blame most Protestants for thinking that, because you even hear strong practicing Catholics say stuff like, oh, pray to Saint Joseph and he'll answer your prayer. It's like, no, he doesn't. He prays with us. Don't go confusing people. You don't even bother with people's preferred pronouns, because they get mad if you ask them what their pronouns are, and they get mad if you don't. Yeah. Oh, yeah, 100% agree. That's why I try to take a middle ground when people ask for my pronouns, and I just say, I am a man, as a way of, like, doubling down on, like, God made me what he wanted me to be, and admittedly, for most of my life, I debated, like, what God was thinking, but I don't know if I'm ready to share the full story just yet, but let's just say that my masculine perspectives were actually able to change a friend's life. Because, yeah, I don't know if I can get into the details, but there was a friend that said, I don't think I would have been able to get over my problems had you not given a man's perspective. You think it depends. Some people are a little more easily offended, but others can be more patient. Yeah, I have noticed that. Like, I've even encountered some trans people who will say that they're cool with any pronouns. I've heard some trans people, even some come into my chat and say, like, hey, I still have female parts, but I'm trans. So just wanted to let you know. It's like, okay, I didn't ask, but okay, if you want to be forward like that, cool. I find that it tends to be the allies that are the louder screamers than the actual people. Like, and this doesn't just go for trans people, this goes for any gay allies, political allies. They're the ones that tend to make the most fuss out of things. Like, from my experience, most trans people are actually pretty soft spoken, and I don't think they actually want all the attention that they're getting. I think the average trans person probably just wants to walk around with someone assuming that they're the gender that they want to be, and the only reason they'd bring up anything to the contrary would be if someone misgenders them. And then they'd probably say, like, oh, yeah, I'm a woman, and then prefer to just call it a day. I don't think they want all that big fuss. But no, I'm very blessed by the trans community in my on my channel, because they have been very, very kind to me, very understanding. I don't think I've had a single trans person come onto my channel and say, oh, you're this terrible, horrible idiot and you're so transphobic. Allies? Oh, heck yeah. I've been threatened by allies, but not trans people. And that's why I'm hoping to change the narrative a bit here. Be like, okay, give the trans people a break. It's the allies that we need to worry about. But then again, don't want to make a blanket statement about them either. I've met some trans allies that are really understanding, and they're able to say, like, okay, you and me, we're both the cisgender here. So let's talk about why I, as a cisgender, support them and why I think you should too. And I'm like, oh, okay. So you're coming from the same perspective as me. All right. And then we get into a dialogue. And honestly, if I can be real with you guys for a moment, some of my best friends are trans allies, if you can believe that. So clearly, I don't hate all of them. It's just that the loudest ones are the ones that the internet gives the most attention to. And those are the people that I think they give both trans people and trans allies a bad reputation, because those of us who don't want to get involved in politics, we end up only hearing the bad stories. We end up hearing about, like, the allies who say, let's shoot all the cisgender people, or the people that say Hollywood is too white and has too much men. Like, those are the people that make the headlines. But we as ordinary people, I shouldn't say ordinary, we as traditionally minded people think that that's the norm. And I have to admit, I have fallen into that trap. I used to think that all trans people were all these super emotional, like, couldn't think for themselves type of people, but no, they're not. Some of them are surprisingly rational. Okay, Terry, well, thank you for showing up. I hope you have a great dinner. All right, what was I saying? But no, I feel like what I like about this channel is, and that's another reason why I think this is the peak of my channel's history, is people from all over different perspectives come to my channel. I've had, oh, there's that symbol again. Yeah, like I've had Protestants, I've had atheists, trans people, trans allies, conservatives. I've had, I think I've even had a couple of non-binary people on my channel. I just have all sorts. And I like how, obviously, what they'll say is they'll say I scared away that kind of inclusivity. But then these live streams show differently. But I have been thinking, and I wanted to get you guys' honest opinions on this. So be brutal with me, guys. I can take it. I'm a big guy. I can take it. So I've been thinking, I originally wanted to make an April Fool's video where I pretended like I was in an alternate timeline. And in that alternate timeline, I pretended to be... Am I talking to myself? Because YouTube says that no one is watching. So I just really want to make sure that YouTube is not on the fritz here. So if you guys could let me know if you're still here, that'd be great. Because again, it was saying 0 people were here when Kateri was, like, literally just finished talking, and it said 0 people. So if I'm talking to myself, I'll save it for another time. Okay, good to know you're here. Yep, it's lying, because it literally says 0 right when you said that. I wonder if it means, like, 0 registered users. Anyway. So I want your honest opinion. Oh, Jungle Running. Honestly, I didn't even see you come in. Either you just showed up or YouTube didn't show your comment. But, well, it said two as soon as Jungle Running show up. Now it just shows one. But welcome in, Jungle Running. Before I get into what I wanted your honest opinion of, did you have any good news? Anything you're excited about? Karin, I don't even think I asked you that. But if either one of you has some great news, I want to hear it. My great news is the plumbing at our house was finally fixed, and I got Estabel and her sister and her brother-in-law coming over from Thursday to Monday, and I love the Mario Galaxy movie. I might even go so far as to say it's my third favorite movie, or second favorite movie. Yeah, because originally it was the first Mario movie, but I personally think this one's better. It just The first Mario movie had moments where it had, like, all those awful licensed songs, and it just really took me out of the atmosphere. And then there was the whole Peaches nonsense, which, I hated that song with a passion. I didn't even like watching it. Like, I get that Bowser's obsessed with Peach, but, like, I'm here to see Bowser, not Jack Black. So the fact that they toned all that down just enjoyable. And it didn't have as many like disturbing moments as the first Mario movie, which I also really appreciated. Plus, Super Mario Galaxy 2 is I'd like to say probably my second or third favorite Mario game. And it didn't get as many references as Galaxy 1, but it had just enough where I was like, oh, that is nice. Oh, I love it. Enjoying Easter with your family, practicing drawing. Well, yours truly is a terrible artist, so I could probably learn a thing or two from you one of these days. Well, anyway, I think I'll start talking, and then if Jungle Running has something, then we'll read it when it comes. I wanted to get your honest opinions. So I know I've said this, but just in case Jungle Running didn't hear it, I'm going to repeat myself. I was originally going to do an April Fool's video on this channel, which I did end up doing an April Fool's joke, just not this idea. I said that I was going to pretend like I was in an alternate timeline where I kept up the memed video, which technically it's still up, it's just privated, which I did hear, like, if you have something privated but not deleted, it like keeps the engagement and like all that statistical stuff. So they said, like, if you attracted people to you in your algorithm when the video was live, those people will still be there now. Hello, hey girl. Hey, cleaning is cool. I used to be a janitor as my last job, so kudos to you, but welcome in. If you have an opinion on what I'm about to say, I want to hear it. So, I don't know how much you heard before, but I wanted to make an April Fool's joke. And the April Fool's joke was I was going to pretend that there was an alternate where the meme video wasn't privated. And what I was going to do was cleaning a kitchen. I don't think I ever did that at my job. But I did work at a kitchen because I worked at a college where we were washing the dishes for a culinary company. Oh, okay. No, I do remember occasionally we did clean stuff like stoves and sinks. Okay, I stand corrected. But anyway, yeah, so I was going to pretend to be the comment section of that video. And I was going to say what I wanted the comments to say all along. Like, I was going to pretend to be them. And then I was going to pretend to say, like, oh, wow, this comment section was so thoughtful and respectful. And they were just treating me like a treasured possession, like I was their best friend. And so I really just want to keep this video up so that I can foster this kind of loving and supportive community. But I figured if I had made that an April Fool's joke, that people would have they would have taken that as being too mean. Like, oh, Paul, you're insulting your audience. And complimented you, and you're just not appreciating the good stuff. So I thought, well, maybe I shouldn't post that then. Maybe I should just save it for live streams where, like, here on these live streams, I have, like, basically no filter. Like, sure, I'll try to keep it relatively PG, but, like, I'll talk about stuff I would never talk about in my regular videos. So my question to you guys is, oh, I agree, hey girl. I love being authentic. Snarky or passive aggressive. Nice to hear that, Jungle Running. I'm glad that I actually read people's emotions correctly. But I figure if I talk about it here with you guys, you can interrupt me. And you can say, Paul, clarify that for a minute. Are you being snarky? Are you being passive aggressive? And then I can say, well, no, I'm not. And here's why. And then people who watch the chat replay can say, oh, okay, now I can see that this person asked that. And then this person said, oh, I get it. And they can get like responses in real time. Whereas when you make a scripted video, the only thing people can do is they can respond to your project after you make it. So you don't have time to like formulate a sentence as you go along. That's why I typically don't make a lot of scripted videos where I talk about like I don't know, broader religious issues or stuff that's political, because it's like I don't feel like I'm the type of person that can make a good video like that, because I thrive on conversation, talking about it. And kinds of bigger issues, I just reality to be able to make a convincing argument from a scripted video format where I say like, hey guys, I'm going to make an entire video talking about my opinion on why Jesus is real. Like, I probably could do that, but I don't think it would be as effective as talking to you guys, is what I'm trying to say. Does that make sense? But no, I have been thinking of like, I've been thinking about wanting to make sure that I show gratitude for the handful of people that did give, proper, adequate, thoughtful responses. And I just have been brainstorming ways to thank those people. But I just don't know how to go about doing that, because it doesn't seem like people think that I'm grateful. So I'm thinking, and again, you guys can let me know in real time. I'm thinking what I'll do is maybe I'll make a video, or maybe I'll just make a live stream, but maybe I'll make a video where I call it something like thanking God. But now that I'm saying it out loud, maybe it wouldn't be such a good idea. Because let's say that I were to call it like thanking God for the good people on the memed video. It's like, oh, okay. Then that's like passive aggressively calling out the people that bothered me. I guess I want to give credit where credit is due, but don't know how. So I'll do it here, because here you can hear my actual tone of voice in real time. I am grateful for the people that came in and they said, oh, hey, this video really helped me to come close to experience gratitude better. And the atheists that came in that had really respectful, thoughtful conversations were really, really nice. And I would like to think that I showed gratitude. It's just that they were in the minority. But anyway, Jungle Running, thank you so much for your advice. I will definitely not go through with making that. But if you guys are curious what April Fool's joke I did do, you can watch my Super Mario Brothers Wonder Switch 2 edition video. I know it's probably not a good idea to call out your own April Fool's jokes, but in a live stream, anything goes. Well, pretty much anything. Hey girl, you'd be happy to hear that I basically have no filter on these live streams. So, authenticity kind of, as they say, it runs the show. But yeah, I think that's, I think I've exhausted that topic. So, oh, welcome back, Kevin. Was everything okay, or were you just listening? Oh yeah, no, I love the Mario movie too. It was a lot of fun. I can see where the critics are coming from, but at the same time, I'm a weirdo when it comes to movies. But when I do, I typically look for the fun factor more than I think of anything else. Like when I watch Star Wars Revenge of the Sith, I like the lightsaber fights and I like the action scenes. Oh, you were at work. Okay. Oh, I hope I didn't get you in trouble. Definitely don't make my live streams get you in trouble. But anyway, yeah, like when I watch Revenge of the Sith, I think of, the lightsaber fights more than I think of anything else. I think as I've gotten older, I've appreciated the narrative more, but it's typically after another YouTuber puts it into perspective that I appreciate it. But when I first watched it, I was just like, oh my gosh, the script and the writing are abysmal. Kevin must be a big fan of Thousand Year Door because there's a Bob-omb named Bub in that game. Cool. I hope you're able to enjoy it, hey girl. I would say if you can, try to see it in 3D, but I wouldn't say 3D is as essential to this movie as it was in, say, Deathly Hallows Part 2. That movie, oh my goodness, that was by far the best 3D experience I've ever had in my life. Have to scrub the pots? Okay. Oh, steel wool. Oh, the bane of my existence. I hated that stuff so much at my job. What was I saying? Oh yeah, so the fun factor. So when I went to see the first Mario movie, was I disappointed by the lack of story? Yes. But was it fun? Yes. It was genuinely just so much. I had a lot of joy in watching the action sequences and all the callbacks and the music, and it was all just a spectacle. And the Mario Galaxy movie was just more of that, and it had less of what I didn't like about the first movie. It didn't have all the stupid licensed music. I think it had like one licensed song, but it was only on for like 5 seconds. And were even better than the ones in the first Mario movie. And, I was laughing the whole time. I was grinning at the broader implications on the Mario games. I do really like Chris Pratt's interpretation of Mario. I said even in my original Mario Brothers movie review, I said if Charles, of course they replaced him with Kevin Afghani, but I said if Charles Martinet were ever to retire, Chris Pratt would be a good second. I just don't think he would want to do that because I think people who voice Mario characters tend to be people that don't voice much else. I've noticed, like except for Kate Higgins, like she voices in quite a lot of like Japanese to English stuff. Like she's in the Sonic games and all that. But generally speaking, like you get people like Kenny James, the voice of Bowser. You look up at his IMDb, and pretty much everything he does is Bowser. In fact, I'll look that up right now. Like, does he do anything else besides Bowser? Same thing with like Samantha Kelly. Like pretty much all she did was Peach and Toad for like 18 years. So I feel like if Chris Pratt were to take on the full, like, Mario voice full time, he wouldn't be able to do anything else. Because Mario games come out more frequently than anything else. All right, I'm looking up his credits. Okay, he does do other stuff besides Bowser. That's good to know. He did Campfire Cooking in Another World with My Absurd Skill. That is a name. Spy Family, To Be Hero X, Dragon Maid. Okay. The 100 Girlfriends Who Really, 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 Really Love You. It was actually that many reallys. Okay. Melon Playground, Heroes of Extinction, Nickelodeon All-Star Brawl 2, Black Summoner. Okay. Attack on Titan. My senpai is annoying. The Time I Got Reincarnated. Okay. Well, anyway, he mostly does stuff that's like in the realm of like anime and voice acting. Oh, yeah, 100% agree. The cameos were like the best part of the movie. I just wish I wasn't spoiled by a lot of those cameos. So I hope that if anyone in this audience is going to go see it, do not look at the marketing. Just go into it knowing that it probably won't make a lot of sense, but just don't try to make sense out of it. Just say, I'm coming in to have a good time. Ooh, we got a new person here. We got Leo Maresk? Leo Maresk? How do you pronounce that name? Or do you want me to just call you Leo? Do I play on other platforms like PC? My computer does a horrible time with Steam. I recently got an interview or an email from and they're coming out with a game called Duck Side of the Moon. The developer said, hey, would you like to try out our game? It has a free demo on Steam, and I couldn't get it past the title screen. So I just said, hey, if you guys can get it running on the Switch, then I'll go ahead and I'll play it. So I am still waiting for a response for that email. But if I do end up reviewing that game, then it'll be the first time in history that the developers themselves reached out to me and said, Paul, we think you would like this game because they saw my Little Gator game in the Dark review. And they said our game was actually inspired by a Little Gator game, which, I love that game. So I feel like any good. But before I had this YouTube channel, I did play PC quite a lot. I played Sonic and Knuckles Collection, Comic Zone, pretty much every Humongous Entertainment game to ever be released, which is why I have currently reviewed every single Humongous Entertainment game on the Switch except for Backyard Baseball. The mouse controls just do not translate well to the Switch. I played quite a lot of Sonic Generations on the 360. Didn't beat it. My sister and I, no, that was on the Switch. Never mind. I played Ratchet and Clank Future Tools of Destruction on the PlayStation 3 for a little bit. I never beat it. I think I just beat the first level. Leo is fine from Venezuela. Oh, you love my channel. Very nice. Glad to hear it. Well, that makes me really happy. See, this is why it's the peak of my channel, is you get people like you coming in and saying, hey, you're not half bad of a channel. Because in the old days of my channel, I definitely had quite a hard time getting an audience. I remember when I first started my channel, I didn't think I'd get over 100 subscribers. So times have definitely changed. But welcome in, Leo. What are has anything cool happened to you lately? You got anything you're looking forward to? And do you like to play any video games? Get to know each other here in this chat. Let's see. Have I played anything else that's Oh, I played a little bit of the Sega Genesis. I remember I had a friend of mine who had the Genesis pretty early on before Nintendo and Sega became chummy. So he actually played Sonic on the Genesis before Sonic Mega Collection came out. And one of the funniest things about Sonic 3 and Knuckles is that I didn't actually know about the Michael Jackson music until he showed it to me after the fact. Because my introduction to Sonic 3 was through the Sonic and Knuckles collection on the PC. And the funny thing about that was that it was the first time ever that people had ever heard the prototype versions of the songs that Michael Jackson worked on. So you would get to the carnival night and you'd hear, Card, you knows what I'm talking about. Yeah. You'd hear songs that made more sense with the rest of the game. So then I went over to my friend's house who had Sonic 3 on his Genesis, and I got to the carnival night zone. I said, "What the heck is that music?" And he said, "What are you talking about?" And I said, "Oh, that music sounds terrible. It sounds completely different than the one on the P." And he's like, "You're telling me you don't like this?" And so I said, "Well, listen to the one on P." And then he said, "You're telling me you like this?" So I was one of the few people who was genuinely baffled that they had such a dramatic music change. And so then when Sonic Origins came out, which ended up being my number 10 game of 2022, if you guys ever watched that video, um, I ended up, I was really happy that they got rid of the Michael Jackson stuff and replaced it with the prototype music. Because I was like, yes, I can finally relive the glory days of Sonic and Knuckles collection on the PC. But I've heard that that game is ridiculously hard to emulate. Yeah, that's why I prefer the prototype music actually, because Michael Jackson felt like he was just trying to compose music for its own sake, as opposed to trying to make it fit the atmosphere. Whereas the prototype music is made by the same person who composed the rest of the music. So, like, you listen to Carnival Night Zone out of context. Like, if you were to just listen to Sonic 3's music and not know where each music came from, I can pretty much guarantee you that every single one of you, when you got to the tracks Michael Jackson worked on, you'd be like, what the heck is this? Was this done by a different composer? And that was exactly, well, more or less exactly what I thought when I first played it. I got to the boss music and Knuckles' theme, and I was just like, why do these just sound like a poor man's excuse at beatboxing? This sounds terrible. And then when I heard of the controversy, then I started to think, oh, well, I wish people had a choice. So I guess even though I was happy with the prototype music being in Sonic Origins, I wish there was a way that there would be an option to toggle it on so that, people have options. I heard that there was also a similar controversy with Rayman's 30th anniversary edition, where like they didn't even get the original soundtrack. I've never played the original Rayman, so I don't really have a say in that, but I do know that the composer who did the new soundtrack did the soundtrack for Rayman Legends, and I love Rayman Legends' music. So if it's anywhere near as good as that, then I'll be happy. But I do hope that they have the option for people to have the original soundtrack at some point. And before you ask, I do plan on at least renting Rayman 30th Anniversary Edition. It's just, I don't know if I'll be able to beat it, because I've heard it's very hard. But I've also heard that this 30th Anniversary Edition has stuff like save states and rewind. I am terrible at Sonic games, so would you think I'd be any better at Rayman? The only Sonic game that I would say I'm even the remotely good at is Sonic X Shadow Generations. Because I can get an S rank on every single stage in Sonic Generations except that stupid Planet Wisp level. I cannot stand Planet Wisp. It's when I reviewed the Switch 2 version of Sonic Generations, I'm pretty sure No, actually, I think I did force myself to play Planet Wisp. And then I said, never again. I did skip the boss battles and the missions, though, when I reviewed the Switch 2 version. Because I figured, what essential information am I going to glean from these boss battles? Like, what? They run at 60 frames now? The rest of the game does. Why do I need to test these out? It didn't feel like it was essential to the review. Oh, yeah, Planet Wisp. The length wasn't what bothered me, it was the controls. Like, the wisps are just so obnoxious. Like, have I played any games from Elder Scrolls? Yes, I have, actually. I played a little bit of Elder Scrolls Blades, and I was terrible at it. And I played a little bit of Skyrim, and I was terrible at it. I don't know. First person games are kind of hard for me because I'm not good at shooters, and I'm not good at something that requires me to steady my aim. Like, you look at Nintendo Switch 2 Welcome Tour. It has a mini game where you have to shoot stationary balloons. That was just so incredibly hard for me to do. So when I was playing Kena Bridge of Spirits recently, I felt suckered when I played that game because, it was an all right game for like about 4 hours. And then the character got a bow and arrow. And then I said, that's it. I give up. Because they gave me no option to use gyro aiming, despite that it was a Switch 2 game that had mouse mode. And they were requiring me to run and shoot at the same time in a boss battle to attack enemies that were firing at me from all directions. And then apparently I had to like fight the boss and shoot the bow at the same time. And I just said, no, thank you. And you might be wondering, well, Paul, you're such a hypocrite because your favorite game is Tears of the Kingdom. That game allows you to aim a bow. The difference is that game lets you slow down time when you pull your bowstring from midair. So if you truly are as bad at shooters as I am, you have the option to make things a little bit easier on yourself. And you get longer time to draw your bow the more stamina you have. So it gives you an incentive to upgrade so that if you really stink as much as I do, you can use natural resources to help the game be easier. And generally speaking, the times when I did have to shoot something when I was on the ground, it was a stationary target. And there was also like, how do I word this? The physics also just felt more realistic. But I don't think I'll ever play Elder Scrolls again, if I'm being honest. Just because when I played Skyrim, I thought it was too restrictive. I thought, oh, I can't climb these mountains like I can in Breath of the Wild. I can't glide like I can in Breath of the Wild. The movement is clunky. The graphics are a piece of work. It just literally everything you could think of, except the music. I do love music. I just said Breath of the Wild did this better. To be fair, it's a newer game, but still. When you go from Breath of the Wild to Skyrim, it is pretty jarring. Your favorite game is Twilight. One of your favorite games is Twilight Princess. Very, very nice. I love Twilight Princess so much. It is currently my third favorite Zelda game. And when it came out, it was actually my favorite video game. And then Professor Layton versus Phoenix Wright came out. And then Breath of the Wild overthrown that. And then Tears of the Kingdom after that. But Twilight Princess is a very close third. The only reason it's not my favorite Zelda game is Tears of the Kingdom. It's actually my favorite video game at present. I just love the thrill of movement. Like I said, I was playing Skyrim and I thought, this is too stiff. I can't climb over the mountains. I can't jump as much. The controls are clunky. Breath of the Wild, you make up your own rules. You have too much trouble climbing the wall? Make a bridge and climb up the bridge. You can't solve a puzzle? Brute force it with all the Zonai devices you have. Like, that's my kind of game, where you gather resources to solve a problem because you stink, but yet in order for you to cheat, you have to expend upon something that has a limit. And so if you run out of what you need to cheese the puzzle, you have to go back and get more resources so that you can cheat more. So like, sure, people have complained, like, oh, well, you can just cheese the shrines because you can just attach a rocket to your shield. Yeah, but shields are in limited supply. So you have to make sure that you have enough rockets and you have enough shields. Well, I think if you like Skyrim, you'll probably find Breath of the Wild to be a wonderful evolution of what that game has to offer. And Tears of the Kingdom is just frankly better in just about every way. Um, I'm the type of guy where I think about convenience and the fun factor more than anything else. I also like a good story, but there are good games out there that don't have good stories. But either way, when I played Tears of the Kingdom and Breath of the Wild back to back when they came on Switch 2, I remember thinking how primitive Breath of the Wild felt because they didn't bother updating it with the changes that Tears of the Kingdom brought. So, like, for example, in Breath of the Wild, when you open up a treasure chest and you get a new weapon, but you don't have enough room for the weapon, Link will just put it back into the treasure chest. Whereas in Tears of the Kingdom, it opens up your weapons menu and you can choose which one to discard or just press the B button if you don't want to discard any of your weapons. And they didn't bother updating that. They didn't bother updating the range of magnesis so that it was up to the standards of Ultra Hand and all the stuff like the menus were a lot cleaner. They didn't update that. It just felt like Tears of the Kingdom was an improvement on Breath of the Wild in just about every way. And the Switch 2 editions felt more like preserving them, which, to be fair, I could see a lot of Zelda fans being very angry if Breath of the Wild too much, because some people prefer that first game. But for me personally, Breath of the Wild feels so tiny when Tears of the Kingdom lets me just jump from the top of the sky and glide all the way down to the land. And it's a seamless transition, especially on Switch 2 where it's like 60 frames. And on my 4K TV, there's so much visual clarity. Oh, it's an absolute breathtaking masterpiece. I know that people on the PS4 and Xbox, whatever, will say that graphics mean more than anything. And I will say most of these games with hyper-realistic graphics have something in them that takes me out of the experience that Nintendo's game. I was playing Final Fantasy VII Remake. That game, in my opinion, is the most gorgeous game I've ever seen. The problem was that it made a lot of sacrifices in the game design that made me realize that this was the price of having those kinds of graphics. So, for example, there were so many instances where the characters had to squeeze through these narrow gaps in the wall that just happened to be big enough for a really heavy set guy. And it's like, what is the likelihood that these crumbling buildings are going to be that generous to you? And then the fact that, like, there were a lot of invisible walls and you could only jump when they told you to. Whereas you get something like Breath of the Wild, where sure, it has more of a stylistic art style, but the trade-off is that it feels just way more fun. Like, you see a waterfall in the distance and you can go to that waterfall. But in Final Fantasy VII Remake, a lot of that is just background decoration. Whereas Breath of the Wild, yes, it's not as hyper-realistic as Final Fantasy VII Remake, but it's more fun because the physics make more sense and the controls are smoother and there's more that you can actually do. Like, it just feels like so many people are like, you gotta have 4K resolution and 120 frames per second. I'm like, yeah, that's cool, but does the gameplay factor into that? And a lot of times, for me personally, it doesn't. Unless if it's Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, in which case that game still looks really great. I hope I haven't been isolating those of you that aren't gamers. It's just that I haven't seen Leo here before, so I wanted to make sure I was answering the questions properly. But one thing that you should know, Leo, is that the people in this chat love to jump from one thing to another. So if someone comes in and wants to talk about psychology, and then right after that you want to talk about games, I'm totally cool with that. I'm all about inclusivity when I'm here. So I want to make sure that everyone feels like they have a chance to chime in. So if you have to interrupt someone, go for it. I don't think anyone here is going to be bothered by that, least of all me. But I would say that Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom are, in my opinion, actually some of the most gorgeous games I've ever seen, because you can tell that there wasn't a sacrifice to get the visuals to look as good as they do. And a lot of times, because it has such an emphasis on physics and weather, that allows for certain effects that you don't see as much in these other big games because they're so focused on everything else. So, like, when I'm in Zora's domain and it finishes raining, like, you can still see lingering drops of water on the mountaintop. And maybe that's just that the Switch 2 edition made it clearer. But I was like, I have never seen something this beautiful in these other PS4 games. Like this is genuinely gorgeous. The sunset, same thing. It, like, the way it shimmers off of the water when I'm playing Mario Kart World and I'm on Koopa Troopa Beach, and I'm just like, oh my gosh, those sand particles with all the rave lights just look so gorgeous. Donkey Kong Bonanza, that's a bit late into the game, but there's one area that has a lot of sand, and you can see every single grain of sand on that beach. And the thing about Donkey Kong Bonanza is I think that makes the case that in some regards the Switch 2 is actually more powerful than these other systems, because you can destroy just about everything. Not only does the game not really break all that much, supposedly it has frame drops. I didn't notice except in the boss battles. But the map actually reacts to your destruction in real time. So you can, like, pause the game and you'll get a full 3D map of the area that marks where you destroyed everything. So, like, say you destroy everything in the level, it'll mark that you destroyed everything. Oh yeah, I 100% agree, Leo. Nintendo goes for style over sheer horsepower. And I think that'll help them in the long run, because you look at games that came out like on the Xbox 360. When those came out, people said, and the Wii was the baby console because it made, it had games in standard definition. But you ask people which game looks better, Super Mario Galaxy or whatever Call of Duty was on the 360. I'm pretty sure most people would probably say Super Mario Galaxy was the more beautiful one. Or you get something like Super Smash Bros. Brawl. That was another game that people thought was absolutely gorgeous. Because that's the thing, is Nintendo tends to go for timeless art styles. Not always. I still think Wind Waker is an abomination of a game. That's my hot take. But, like, you get games like Yoshi's Woolly World. You just don't see that enough on the other systems. It makes it so that I don't think people will ever not like Yoshi's Woolly World, because for as long as Yarn has been in existence, people liked looking at Yarn. And the game more or less replicates the feeling of Yarn pretty much perfectly. And I played the 3DS version. I only played a fraction of the Wii U version, and I still thought the 3DS game was one of the best looking games I'd ever played. Mario Kart 8, same thing. Like, another very gorgeous game with a great movement system. I'm still debating whether I think it looks better than Mario Kart World. I think I'm going to lean slightly towards Mario Kart World, just because there's more moments in that game that make me nostalgic for actual scenery. Like when I'm driving through the grass in Mario Kart, walk through grass like this. Or like when it's nighttime, I'll be like, oh, this is what the lighting looks like near where I live as well. When I'm like driving by the water, I'd be like, oh, this water looks very similar to like water I've actually encountered. Mario Kart 8 Deluxe feels very scripted in comparison. Like everything is in a circle. And you try to drive outside of that circle, and Lakitu just puts you on the path. So it's like, why is Peach's castle there if you're not able to drive up to it? Whereas in Mario Kart World, you can just do whatever you want, and it's very rare that the game ever says you've gone too far. Not quite as big as Breath of the Wild's world, but still. And I know I gave the free roam mode a lot of flack in my review, and I still do. But I think I've grown to appreciate it more as a time waster when I'm waiting for people to come onto game chat. And in that regard, it succeeds because it seems like every other second I'm discovering new missions. But I am the type of guy that I like narrative in my games. That's why I have trouble with games like Animal Crossing. They're just way too open-ended for me. So we will see how much I end up liking the new Tomodachi Life. I liked it a lot when I played the demo. But I can see myself maybe like playing it for a couple of days and being like, okay, I've seen everything. Where's the final boss? What's the objective here? I don't know. That's why I gave up on the Switch 2 edition of New Horizons pretty quickly. As soon as I got my island advanced enough to have like all the Zelda themed furniture and outfits, I said, I'm done. It's just way too open-ended. That's why I really like Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, but I don't like Smash for 3DS and Wii U all that much. The games just do not have any narrative. Sure, Ultimate's narrative is pretty pathetic, but a bad story is better than no story, in my opinion. And that's why I will still defend the Mario Galaxy movie. It may not have much story, but the story that it does have, oh, I am really looking forward to the Mario games that Nintendo announces after the fact. So, Leo, I don't know if you knew this, but one thing I tell my chat is that this water is the source of my life energy when I am doing live streams, because I literally get tired from the sound of my own voice. So I tell my audience when the water starts getting low, bring out the big questions so that I can answer them before I end the stream from being too tired. One thing funny that you say that, hey girl. I like the sound of my own voice in the sense of like I don't mind listening to myself in recordings. Like I'll still watch my own YouTube videos because I like how I sound. I sound pretty much exactly the same as I did when I was like I think 16 or 17. Like obviously there's a little bit of a difference, but not much. And I just feel very, very fortunate that by guy standards, I did not have to suffer with all that voice cracking. But I find myself getting exhausted when I talk to, and that's the main reason actually. That is actually the main reason why I put off these live streams for so long. Is because I just said, I'm just so tired. People aren't talking enough. It's just me talking the whole time. I want more people to chat, more people to engage. You guys are doing great, but before it was really hard to get that going. And I just said, I can't do this. I don't know how you streamers do it. But over time, I've gotten better because I've gotten an audience that'll talk just enough. Well, what helped me to be able to like hearing my own voice was one, is I literally had a miraculous, I don't want to say healing, but like when I was about to go through puberty, I prayed that God wouldn't allow my voice to change. And well, it didn't. By the time I hit like 13 or 14, everyone else's voices were changing and mine didn't. And I was like, yes, thank you so much, Lord. I am so happy about that. And so that was part of it. And then also I used to public speak before I had a YouTube channel. And I would like listen back to some of my speeches so that I could know what to improve. And, I went on 8 mission trips. And on one of those mission trips, I got a chance to go up on the stage and share how I saw God that week. And um, of all the people that spoke on the stage, I was one of the few people that they actually filmed most of the speech. There's one sentence that I said that they didn't film. And I talked about how, you guys are probably going to think this is super cheesy, but I was walking back to the school. We were staying at a school in the pouring rain, like pouring rain. I have never seen rain this bad in my life. And there were these three teenagers standing at the entrance of the school. And I don't know what I was thinking, but I just held open my arms and I said, would someone like a hug? And this redheaded girl walked out from under the awning into the pouring rain and decided to hug me. And I was so touched by that, because you would think that she would have the sense to say, you come to me, you're the one in the pouring rain. But she came into the rain to hug me. And so I said on the stage that I saw God in her, because it goes to show the beauty of how God is the one that reaches out to us in our bad times. We just don't think that he does. And we have to realize that God is giving us way more blessings than we will ever realize. But it's the people in hell that'll realize how much they were missing, because we might think that our life is a living hell and, we're suffering so much and everything's going wrong. But there are just these tiny little things that make it so that your life isn't 100% miserable. Like, I don't know, maybe you've been starving all day, but like your stomach hasn't torn inside out. Or you might like only live in a box, but like you still have this tiny little glimmer of hope that maybe you'll get a house one day. In hell, you have none of that. You don't sleep under a box. You sleep under the burning hot sun on charcoal and have demons poking you, and you get no sleep. So in that same way, that girl really inspired me to think positively about like all the things that God did to me. But yeah, during Lent, oh, thank you, Leo. I really appreciate that. Actually, the entire camp thought it was beautiful, because I was the only person on the stage that got a round of applause. And a lot of people literally said, like, that was like the highlight of my camp. And there were there were more than one redheaded girl at that camp. So there was a lot of conversation going around about who was the redhead that ended up hugging Paul. And so pretty much every girl at the camp, except the one that hugged me, came up to me afterward and said, Paul, I regret to say that I was not your redhead, but you're such a great person that I would have hugged you if you were in the rain. So I think it actually opened this idea that I was way easier to talk to, I guess. Like, I would say that was the mission trip where I was the most social. Like, my first mission trip, I was an utter nervous wreck. I was sitting by myself Tuesday. And even though I eventually did pluck up the courage to talk to people, it took a long time to get to that point. But then when I went on my second mission trip, I told myself that I was going to take what I learned from the first and go into it with like how I felt after my life was changed and apply that to the entire camp. And then the following year, I talked to people from one youth group. Not too much else, because there wasn't much else to begin with. And then just as the years progressed, I just got more and more quiet. I think it was because I was in depression, but I didn't know it at the time. So I think one of the teenagers, he said, Paul, there's something about you that feels off on this mission trip. And I said, what are you talking about? From the time of my life. He said, yeah, you're not like skipping as much as you did last year, and you seem more subdued. And I'm like, I seriously have no clue what you're talking about, because I feel like I'm having the time of my life. But then I looked back on the summary DVDs and I realized, no, he was absolutely right. There was this downward decline of energy as the trips went along to like by the time 2015's trip came along, I hardly talked to anyone. The people that I did talk to really appreciated what I had to say. But I would say that of all the trips that I ever went on, that was the one where I felt the most like really wallowing in my depression. I don't think I knew it was depression at the time, but I knew that I was I knew that socializing was getting harder. So now that I'm out of depression, which this year, last month, marked 10 years since I got out of depression, I have had so many people come up to me and say, Paul, you have a real gift for starting conversations and socializing with people. And that made me feel so happy because I used to have a really hard time with that in high school. In fact, I remember my very first youth group meeting. I walked into the basement of the convent where we were meeting, and I saw that there were about 5 people there. And I panicked, ran into the back room, and because I was just like, oh my gosh, all those people that I don't know, what am I? But eventually I talked myself out of it. I said, all right, I'm going to make an effort to talk to every single person in the youth group. And by the time I graduated, I did. That was probably not for my benefit, but I still did it anyway. And one girl, she was the one that wrote me the longest affirmation note out of anyone in the youth group. And that was the thing she said. She just said, Paul, I was really inspired by the fact that you talk to every single person in the youth group. And I remember thinking, oh my gosh, that really inspires me, because I was just an absolute nervous wreck my very first youth group meeting. And I was a nervous wreck at those conferences too, because I didn't really want to talk to anyone except for my best friend at the time. But then he got sick the very first day of the conference. So then it forced me to be like, okay, literally every other person in my youth group is female, and I'm the only guy here. So I have to not only suck it up and be okay with being around people of the opposite gender, but I also have to be willing to like do the icebreakers and have people talk to me outside of my friend circle. And I think that was another inspirational moment for me, because it got me to realize that I needed to not be cliquey. I needed to be willing to like talk to other people, and I needed to be willing to take risks, because oh goodness, every single mission trip I ever went on was a risk. I know I romanticized them quite a lot, but there were definitely some concerns on every single trip. But at the same time, I am grateful for every single mission trip I went on, all 8 of them. Even the one that I hated, I'm grateful that I went on. Because the ways in which God was able to use me on those trips just blows my mind. I learned that I have this knack for asking the Holy Spirit for guidance, but then I don't understand what the Holy Spirit says. So then, in fear of sounding stupid, I end up saying the first thing that pops into my head. And then the person ends up saying, oh, guess what? That was exactly what I needed to hear. Surgeon Butterfingers. Oh my gosh. Never thought I'd see you here. Heck yeah, Paul Livestream. You know it. Welcome in. Setting the goal of talking to everyone in the youth group. Oh, thank you. I really appreciate it. Yeah, no, I miss you quite a lot. I don't know what you want me to call you here because I know you said that that was a pseudonym, but I do hope we can start emailing and talking again. Yeah, I saw quite a while ago, so I hope I can say Tyria? Okay. Can I say you're the Tyria? Well, I guess I just said it. But yeah, guys, Surgeon Butterfingers was someone that I actually got a chance to meet in real life. So I feel so honored that someone from my YouTube channel was able to get to see the real me and give me a hug and be like, I can attest that Paul is not just some random disembodied voice on the internet with long hair. He is a real person with real skin and long hair. So I'm a genuine real hippie. And I'm pretty sure at no point during our hangout, no, definitely not AI. I've been told by quite a lot of people that I have too unique of a personality for AI to replicate. And that makes me feel really good. But one thing I really appreciate about you, Tyria, is that during our hangout, not once, not one single time, did you ever treat me like I was a celebrity. You didn't like wave your hands and be like, oh my gosh, I'm in the presence of a YouTuber. This is so cool. You were just like, oh, hey, Paul, it's so great to talk to you, like a normal person would. And that's kind of how I would like everyone to talk to me if I ever met the rest of you in person. I just, like, yes, technically I'm popular, but at the same time, like, I like my quiet life. And I like people that treat me like everyone at the gym. Good one, Tyria. Very good one. But how are you doing, Tyria? I know I I don't know if you saw this, but I said in my best memories video that I gave you a nickname. I called you the boomerang cuz like we usually take a while to get back to each other, but then when you do, it's like just as powerful as the last time. And that was meant to be a compliment, by the way. So thank you for that. You visited your friend for Easter. That is so cool. I, for Easter, didn't get to do anything super good, but I did get to go to my church and I met up with a couple of people that I don't know if I'd call them friends, but I really like being, yes, mass. Um, the reason why I sometimes say church instead of mass is because I have Protestants in my audience and atheists as well. And so there's a Bible verse that talks about the necessity of like being all things to all people. So I might say that the priest preached a sermon as opposed to saying that he preached a homily because people know what a sermon means, but they don't know what a homily is. So I say that so that people can understand what I'm talking about. I'm not technically lying. He is still preaching. It just has an official name in the Catholic Church. Yeah, I have gotten that impression. I have that's why I really love my job right now. Is I'm the assistant teacher for 4th and 5th graders. And I love just being able to say like, well, did you know that the catechism taught this? And a lot of times the main teacher will even say like, oh, I didn't even know that. So it's very nice to be able to teach the younger generation. 9 to 11-year-olds, I would say, is the age range. Goodness knows I don't think I'd have the patience to teach a 6-year-old because I specialize in the older crowds, as a lot of the people here can attest. I like being able to get complicated. I like being able to say, okay, Let me tell you about the theology behind things. And when I'm around people that are under the age of like 7 or 8, it's really hard to do that because they haven't developed their sense of reason and logic yet. So you have to like speak in kind of a baby voice to them. Like, yes, with 9 to 11-year-olds, you sort of have to do that. Like, obviously, you can't talk about sex around them, for example. But, like, I don't have to treat them like babies. Like, I can say, "Oh, hey, what did you do over the weekend?" And they might say, like, "Oh, I was just playing Call of Duty." And I'd be like, "Oh, that's nice. What kind of things did you like to do in Call of Duty?" Like, if I was talking to a 6-year-old, I'd have to be like, "So, what did you do today?" And they'd be like, "I read a book with my daddy." And I'd say, like, "Oh, good. What did you like about the book?" A lot. And I don't like that when I'm teaching. I say, like, I'm just going to go straight to the complicated stuff. And you guys are going to know the reason behind this. So hopefully one of these days I'll be able to teach high schoolers. But for now, I think fourth and fifth graders are a good compromise. Well, I do have a friend of mine that has a 6-year-old daughter, and she's quite hyper. And I remember really liking being around her a lot because at first she was really quiet. But then once she determined that she could trust me, she started talking more and more. And I remember one of the last things that she said to me before I left the hangout was she said, "Are you strong enough to be able to pick me up?" And I said, "Well, let's see if I can." And then after the hangout was over, her dad sent me an email saying, "My daughter said that she thought you were really nice." And I felt super honored by that because, again, my specialty is the older age range. You like telling people in an authoritative voice that's a sin. That is pretty funny, hey girl. Um, I used to be like that, but I've learned over time that that just makes people even less convinced that I'm telling the truth. So what I will usually do is I will try to my learn from my friends because most of them are NFs. Um, and I will try to be more diplomatic. Taco Tuesday shirt. This shirt actually, I don't know if you guys can see it from here. Um, right here. That's the logo of the mission trip where I got it from. Stands for Catholic Heart Work Camp. And I got this on my fourth. I got this on my fourth mission trip. And it still fits all these years later. And what I love about Taco Tuesday is that Taco Tuesday was the same night that I got my miraculous healing. I wasn't even thinking about that for most of the day, actually. I was genuinely thinking, like, okay, I know that every Tuesday is an adoration night, and I know I'm going to like it, but I didn't think I would be miraculously healed. And so when I felt so honored because I'm pretty sure I was thinking, like, maybe it's the agnostics in the group or teenagers that are like confused about their faith. They're going to be the ones that are healed because they're the ones that need to be convinced that God is real. But no, he chose me of all people. And I've had at least one or two atheists that talk to me and say, like, your miraculous healing, I genuinely believe was a real thing. And it just makes me happy that, like, even if I can't convince atheists that God is real, that they can at least acknowledge that great things can happen. So the difference between a transgression and a sin is a transgression is just anything that's wrong, whereas a sin is a deliberate choice to do what offends God. So, like, a transgression might be something like, I don't know, you're gossiping just because that's a force of habit. But a sin is where there's some level of conscious thought to it. Like, for example, Mm, I know I shouldn't skip church on Sunday, but I'm going to do it anyway. Oh, I know I shouldn't. I know I shouldn't. I shouldn't be getting drunk right now, but I'm going to do it anyway. And of course, there's differences between venial and mortal sins, um, which I'm not sure you guys want me getting into. But let's just say, to keep it very, very, very simple, I don't think that anyone here is going to hell. And it's for one simple reason, and that's that hell is a place for people that are deliberately like the most wicked of the wicked and show no remorse for it. I think even the most hardcore atheists of the world are probably going to be in heaven. And here's why. Because I just don't think they've had a good teacher. But they live out this really beautiful life. Honestly, some atheists that are friends of mine live better lives than some of my Catholic friends, in my opinion. And it's because they really get this idea of love and servitude. They just don't believe that it's like this obligation to God, but I also think that's the mindset that we as practicing Catholics should think is we don't do it out of this obligation, we do it because we want to. It becomes desirable to do the right thing. And so for me personally, even though I do believe there's going to be a heaven, I also believe that there's this mindset that, oh, let me answer your question, hey girl. When someone leads a sinful life and at the end say, oh, well, I repent, do they still go to heaven? Yes, but it's going to take longer because we as Catholics believe that there's a process going into heaven called purgatory. Now, purgatory is nowhere in the Bible, so don't try to look inferred in the Bible because Jesus makes saying like, blasphemy against the Holy Spirit will never be forgiven either in this life or the life to come, which doesn't make sense if he's talking about either heaven or hell. So what purgatory is it's kind of like taking a shower or like going through a decompression chamber. Is you have to remove the remaining traces of sin and desire for sin from your life. So say you go to heaven and you repent of having, I don't know, say a porn addiction. Yes, God would forgive you for that, but you would still need to get rid of the desire for porn because you can't have any desire for sin in heaven. We believe that God is so merciful that the only people that are really going to be in hell are the people that genuinely say, I choose to be a bad person. I choose to be hateful. And I choose to do these terrible, awful, evil things. And even if God Almighty comes down at the last second of my life and says, do you still want this? That's why I personally think there's not actually that many people in hell. Because let's face it, how many people are actually that wicked? I'm sure there's more than I realize because maybe I'm naive and maybe I just haven't had enough life experience. But I think the ignorant people are the ones who are going to appreciate heaven the most. Because I think deep down inside, atheists think that we think they're going to hell, even though I don't think so. I mean, I think most atheists actually live pretty good lives. It's just that, again, they weren't taught properly who they got to commit themselves to. People are such hypocrites. They think they're doing good things, but they're. And a lot of times, the people that think that they're doing good are probably, in my opinion, the people who are going to end up in hell the most. Is because they get into what's called self-righteousness, where they care more about looking good for themselves than they do for other people. And that's why I think it was so profound when you read the Gospels and you look at the good thief who was, condemned to die because he actually was a terrible sinner. But then when the other thief said, "Hey, get me down from the cross," he was like, "You fool. You do realize that you deserve to be on this cross. And this is the God of the universe. He knows that you're guilty. He's not going to get you off that because he knows you need to be punished." But then he said, "I know that I am guilty, but I still hope that you'll remember me." And Jesus said, "Okay, I'll let you go to heaven." So he realized at the last moment of his life that he he needed to ask for forgiveness, and that's what did it, because he got his just condemnation, but at the same time the condemnation was only for the acts that were recognized. Jesus' sacrifice on the cross was for everything, even the stuff that takes place only in our own heads. And so he must have realized, I'm being condemned for stuff like murdering and causing a riot, but this man is being condemned for every single impure thought, every single time that people might have neglected their prayer. The entire world, the entirety of human history. Even if Jesus isn't real, the question I would beg is, okay, what was going through the mind of the man who was crucified if he wasn't actually the Son of God? Surely at some point, if he wasn't actually God, the pain would have gotten to him to such a degree. Because again, think about it. This is Roman crucifixion we're talking about. This isn't just getting a prick at the doctor's office. This is starving to death and being suffocated to death and bleeding to death. And sometimes they would break their legs to try to get them to die faster. And if Jesus was just an ordinary man, why didn't at any point did he try to tell people to stop? And so I think that even if Jesus was just a charismatic leader, I think the fact that he was God was why he didn't resist at any point. Because remember, he had disciples with him when he was in the garden. If he was hypothetically a charismatic leader, he would have gotten his disciples to rally to his cause and beat off the people that were trying to arrest him. When he was in the Praetorium and having all these witnesses talking about things that he said, the thing that amazed the religious leaders the most during his trial was that he didn't respond to the allegations. He didn't try to correct them. If anything, he made it worse on himself, because he said, he didn't answer the people. I just lost a couple of viewers according to YouTube now that I'm saying this. But I don't care. I'm going to say it anyway. It was after the high priest said, "You don't think it's naive to want to believe in people, Paul, as long as you're safe?" I'll have to think about what that means. But I would say that I do take my safety very seriously. I'm the type of person that I look both ways, even when I'm. No, that's okay. That's okay. When my train of thought gets lost, I completely lose all context. Ways, even when I'm crossing grass, because I like maybe a car could lose control. You got that. You got that totally right. Hey, girl. Um, I do occasionally ride roller coasters, though, so I guess that's, a bit of a stereotype that I broke, but the last time I rode a roller coaster was 7 years ago. So it has been a while. I definitely do not seek out those kinds of thrill rides, but when I do, I love them. But anyway, it was after the high priest said, "I order you under oath by the living God, are you the Son of God?" Jesus could have said, "Oh, no, it was all a misunderstanding." But instead, not only did he say, "I am," which, mind you, was a terrible thing to say during his time. That was, like, punishable by death because "I am" was what God identified himself as in the Old Testament, and that was punishable by death. He intensified it, not only by saying, "I am," but then he quoted the prophet Daniel, where Daniel made a prophecy about the Messiah. So not only was he saying, "I am God," but also, "I am the Messiah." And that's when the high priest tore his clothes and said he needed to be crucified. But even then, Pilate didn't find him guilty of anything. And this whole time, Jesus never complained. He never said, "Stop it." He never said, "Get me off of this cross. I lied. I didn't mean to say it." He intensified his own punishment. In the garden, he said, "I could call down 12 legions of angels, but I'm not going to. I'm going to let you guys do this. You might be twice as old as me, but you rode a roller coaster last summer." That is cool. I hope you're able to ride more roller coasters. Pontius Pilate seemed like he didn't want to get involved. Um, I'm not sure about that, honestly. Although there is a reason why at every Catholic creed we always say he suffered death under Pontius Pilate. Because even though Pilate said, "I wash my hands of this man's blood," he still ultimately made the decision out of cowardice, even though he knew Jesus was innocent. The crowds were rioting, and they were saying, like, "You're no friend to Caesar's if you don't crucify this man." It was still his decision to go through with it. And that every single creed, we say his name. And we say, yep, even though he claims to be innocent, we're going to remember that he chose to do it. Did he repent? Don't know, but maybe. You ride roller coasters every summer? Very nice. Very nice. I wish I could say that. The higher the ride, the better. Um, I don't know what my preference is with regards to partners, because when I was a teenager, I would always hate it whenever I would be seated next to a girl who would treat me like I was something disgusting. Like, she would look at me and she'd look like she was having the worst day of her life. So, I don't remember too many times where I sat next to a stranger on a ride and that person was happy to see me. I think maybe like once or twice did that ever happen. So that's why I like, if I do go to amusement parks and water parks, I like going with a friend. Because the one thing that I just refuse to do alone anymore is swimming. I there's just there's too many weirdos and too many people that have this bad view of men. Well, times thankfully the last time I went to Cedar Point, I had a there were 3 other people with me on that trip, and our group spent the entire time together, never went anywhere on our own. And so the one girl in our group, there were 3 guys, 1 girl. The girl had an app on her phone that showed how long each line was. So if we wanted to go on the popular ride, we'd just look, how long are the lines? As a result, we didn't end up going on the scariest ride, unfortunately. But we did go on a few upside down roller coasters, so I felt super happy about that. If there is ever a time when I can meet up with you, girl, and if there's somehow a way that we can go on roller coasters, I'll do it. Doubt that'll ever happen, but I would definitely do it. Tyria, I don't think you realize how brave I actually am. um, I am the type of person that I really like thrill rides, and I really like scary stuff at amusement parks. And I know you're probably thinking, "Oh, he's probably an SP type as a result of that." But here's the difference. I don't seek that stuff out. SP types genuinely get agitated and bored when they're not constantly having thrill rides. Hey girl, if you're relating to this, NJs are like that to a degree as well, where they need this in their lives. They're like, okay, if I'm not having the newest delicious restaurant or the newest paint job or the newest fancy car, then I'm impatient. I need to get this as soon as possible. I'm not like that. To me, I care more about my comfort than anything else. Comfort, loyalty, um, discipline, those are what I value the most. So when I go to the gym, I don't think about which chair is the best looking. I think about which chair is going to be the best on my bottom. Well, my water's just about out, so I think I will call it here. But before I do, Tyria, remember to check your email because we do need to talk again sometime. And let me go through the list here of everyone who came up so that I can thank everyone for showing up. Thank you, Tyria, aka Surgeon Butterfingers. Thank you, Hey Girl. I know Jungle Runnin' was here a while ago. Leo, thank you, Leo. Thank you, Karinu, Kevin. Kateri was here earlier. Thank you for that. I think that's everyone. Yep, there we go. Oh no! I certainly hope I wasn't responsible for making you break something, hey girl. Oh man. The best roller coaster. I don't, unfortunately, but just one of the ones that I rode at Cedar Point was really cool. Party? Yes, we do need to party. We definitely need to party, and hopefully we can meet up again sometime. That would be great because we really did not have long enough to hang out. All right, guys, thanks a bunch for coming. I had a blast as always. Yes, we did have a party here with the guests, and it was very great. Yes, we did. I still don't get what that symbol is, but I can at least see that you got the heart symbol. All right. You guys have a wonderful rest of your day. And until the next time, remember to keep the faith, stay epic, and God bless. And thank you, Leo. I'm really glad that you liked the stream. No, I saw that you made hearts. It's just that you did something before 3 of your hearts. And I don't think you can see it. I don't think anyone but me can see it. But I've just been seeing this symbol at the start of people's sentences. And I can't figure out what it is because whenever I try to hover over it, it disappears. So I see strange symbol and then 3 hearts. So I don't know. Email me later if you know what I'm talking about. I hope I wasn't shaming you there, Tahiria. But I really do miss you quite a lot. And yeah, we need to get back in touch. But all right. I'm sorry guys, but my voice is sore and I also haven't eaten dinner yet. So I hope you'll forgive me. But okay, officially, you all have a wonderful day. And remember to keep the faith, stay epic, and God bless. Bye. How do I end the stream? Oh, there we go. YouTube changed their layout. Okay, bye for real.